Let me tell you something, brother. This is the winter of my discontent. Respiratory ailments run rampant. Again, I sit in my lush 75,000 foot home sick, alone in the darkness thinking about Reanimator decks in the Commander format. Reanimator has a long and storied history in the game and the Commander format. It's one of my favorite strategies. You get some huge fatty in the graveyard, then you pull it out with a spell that's a fraction of its mana cost. You get some 9-drop for 2 mana, something like that. But is that enough in Commander? Yes. Yes, it is. You just need the right tools and the right commander. Now, my fascination with this archetype started with this little card here, Zombify. 3 and a black for a sorcery, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Look at the beautiful art on this thing, man. To this day, this promo is $1.18, and that's because it's not the most efficient card in the world. So let's talk efficiency and versatility. Each of these 3 cards can target any graveyard. Keep that in mind too. Reanimate is 1 black mana for a sorcery. Put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its mana value. Life is a resource in Commander, and this trades that life for reanimation power. I'm partial to the classic Tempest version. Robert Bliss knocking this card out of the park. Animate Dead and Necromancy are 2 enchantments with some large, complicated text boxes that are basically identical, but they have some unique idiosyncrasies. Animate Dead's a little cheaper, gives the creature a little power cut, and Necromancy can be cast at instant speed but sacrifice it at the next cleanup step. I'm going to put their text box up on the screen because basically what it says is you enchant a creature in a graveyard and put it onto the battlefield under your control. Animate Dead goes all the way back to Alpha and has this classic Anson Maddox banger art, dude. That's me back in the left corner pulling the strings. Rise, my puppets. And don't get me started on this classic Necromancy from Visions. Looks like me after I see what happened in the Walmart bathroom, dude. I'm just here to take a whiz, you know what I'm saying? Pete Venters nailed the shock of the recently resurrected. Now, those are the most efficient Reanimator spells and also some of the most expensive. There are others that can help the budget bros dig their fatties out of the yard, like Persist, 1 and a black for a sorcery, return target non-legendary creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a -1/-1 counter on it. See, this is a little more restrictive. You need to target a non-legendary, but for most decks that's just fine, man. Look at this little guy crawling. Looks like Sam Bankman-Fried. Now, Victimize is a card I've used to great effect. 2 and a black for a sorcery, choose 2 target creature cards in your graveyard, sacrifice a creature. If you do, return the chosen cards to the battlefield tapped. So on its face this may seem bad, but let's use our imagination a little bit. Say we have a sacrifice outlet out there, and a Zulaport Cutthroat. Get 2 creatures who come in and make tokens, sack them, sack a token for Victimize, get them back, make more tokens, then sack them and drain more life. It just goes nuts in those type of decks. How about Exhume, dude? Looks like they're dragging my mother-in-law back from her shopping trip to Sephora over there. This is symmetrical, but I bet your opponents didn't cast Entomb on turn 1. You know, they got nothing in the yard, but you've got a Razaketh chilling in there, dude. So this is 1 and a black for a sorcery. Each player puts a creature card from their graveyard onto the battlefield. Speaking of Entomb, let's talk about getting cards into the graveyard. Entomb is 1 black mana for an instant. Search your library for a card, put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle. This is the gold standard for entombing. I want to have a gravestone like this, you know, just a marble hand reaching up out of my burial plot. Freak out all the joggers, you know. But this card used to be around $30, it's about $6 right now. Also, like Persist, this is from Modern Horizons 2 Unmarked Grave. 1 and a black for a sorcery, search your library for a non-legendary card, put that card in your graveyard, then shuffle. This was from the same set as Persist. Really hating on the legends in this set, but in a Reanimator deck, this can fetch some utility creature to the yard. Another staple of Reanimator decks, and one that helps me get my Necrotic Ooze combos into the yard, is Buried Alive. 2 and a black for a sorcery. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards, put them into your graveyard, then shuffle. I love this Weatherlight art, dude, with these poor fools taking a dirt nap. And another fairly recent addition to the graveyard tutor suite from Modern Horizons 2 as well, Violent Tumor, 2 black creature zombie warlock. It's a 2/2 with Death Touch. When this guy enters the battlefield, search your library for a card, put that card in your graveyard, then shuffle. These guys are out there at Bohemian Grove, they're doing nefarious things. Look at all the tomato sauce on their hands, you know, they're up to something. This guy is a zombie, goes great in zombie decks, and can pop Gravecrawler right into the yard for your Gravecrawler combos. It's worth noting you can get any card if you have recursion for instants and sorceries or whatever. Kinda like the Auric Lore Mage, 2 black for a creature, human warlock. It's a 3/3, has tap. Search your library for a card, put it in your graveyard, then shuffle. If it's an instant or sorcery card, put a +1/+1 counter on this idiot here. Nothing can stop this guy's fashion, brother. He's got the glowing purple magic energy. He's got the flappy robes out there. Come on, man. It's a reusable graveyard tutor. And don't sleep on mass reanimation spells. There are 2 tribal spells that slot nicely into black-centered tribal decks. Patriarch's Bidding is 3 black for a sorcery. Each player chooses a creature type. Each player returns all creature cards of a type chosen this way from their graveyard to the battlefield. Still under $3. I bought 5 of these when this set released. Also Modern Horizons 2. And the reprint tanked the price. As far as I know, there aren't any werewolf reanimator decks, but the old art is kind of weird too, man. This was a $20 card once upon a time. And get ready, man, because this card's a little clunky. Haunting Voyage is 4 black for a sorcery. Choose a creature type, return up to 2 creature cards of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield. This spell was foretold, return all creature cards of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield instead. Has foretell for 5 black. So that's a total of 9 mana on an installment plan, but this is not symmetrical. It's got bonkers art for both versions. Beautiful card, about $4. Then we have the very old school Twilight's Call, 4 black for a sorcery. You may cast Twilight's Call as though it had flash if you pay 2 more to cast it, which is pretty awesome. Each player returns all creature cards from their graveyard to the battlefield. It's a little riskier, but if you have that 8 mana, you can cast it on an opponent's end step after sacrificing all your stuff. But it is a symmetrical effect. If you built your deck right, you're going to break symmetry and get more stuff back. Look at Batman out there. He finally snapped and made himself a bat sword. And if you can get up to 9 mana, you got Rise of the Dark Realm, 7 black for a sorcery. Put all creature cards from all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control. I recently used this in my Phoenix mill deck after traumatizing an elf deck. I got 20 or so elves and was able to mill the entire table out. Works best in a dedicated mill deck though. And of course the nuclear option, Living Death, 3 black for a sorcery. Each player exiles all creature cards from their graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures they control, then puts all cards they exiled this way onto the battlefield. You basically exchange in your graveyard for your battlefield full of creatures. You need to know your opponents don't have counter magic, but just sacrifice all your stuff to whatever sacrifice outlet is out there, then blow your opponents out of the water and instantly rebuild. This can be an insane swing for 5 mana. Carrion Feeder, Viscera Seer, they can also just sacrifice themselves last, dude. Living Death had a few themed reprints in the Warhammer 40k decks and Lord of the Rings, both very pretty cards. Now zombie decks have one additional tool, and that's the Zombie Apocalypse, 3 black for a sorcery. Return all zombie creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, then destroy all humans. I like the Dark Ascension art on this, man. This card is super flavorful if you're reanimating zombies. Speaking of which, Varina is a fantastic zombie reanimator commander. It's 1 white, blue, and a black for a legendary creature zombie wizard. It's a 4/4. Whenever you attack with 1 or more zombies, draw that many cards, then discard that many cards, and you gain that much life. Has 2, exile 2 cards from your graveyard, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. She's a looter in the command zone, rewards all the zombie reanimator shenanigans. I have 2 lists on my Mox field, my personal deck and a $65 budget version. I'm going to link them in the description, of course. Varina is great at getting zombies in the yard, then digging them all back out with reanimator shenanigans. Plus she can use Gravecrawler combos, Rooftop Storm nonsense, and Zombie Apocalypse. How about this guy, Sauron, the Lord of the Rings, 5 blue, red, and a black for a legendary creature, Avatar Horror. It's a 9/9. When you cast this spell, amass Orcs 5, mill 5 cards, and return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Has Trample. Whenever a commander an opponent controls dies, the ring tempts you. I find this super attractive as a commander, not as a lover, dude, as a commander, because he's a big bad monster, he's the biggest bad monster, and it's a cast trigger. If you get countered, well, at least you get those triggers. You miss out on the 9/9 though, but you can't blink it to get those triggers, you can't reanimate it. 8 mana is a lot, but it's in Grixis color, so you can just run Reanimator until you get there. Really fun card, man. And originally from Commander 2019, we have Chainer Nightmare Adept, 2 black and a red for a legendary creature, human minion. It's a 3/2. Discard a card, you may cast a creature spell from your graveyard this turn. Activate only once each turn. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if you didn't cast it from your hand, it gains haste until your next turn. Chainer looks like a damn rave DJ gone to the dark side, brother. This is a great enabler, but also a pretty competent graveyard commander. That second ability works with creatures you cast from exile or when they enter from the library or whatever. A relatively new one, Kroxa and Kunoros, 3 red, white, and a black for a legendary creature, Elder Giant Dog. It's a 6/6. Vigilance, Menace, and Lifelink. Whenever these guys enter the battlefield or attack, you may exile 5 cards from your graveyard. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's a pretty bonkers reanimation engine. You really need self-mill or wheels, which are plentiful with red, but that's reanimation in the command zone, very neat card. Same with one of my favorite cards of all time, Nethroi, Apex of Death. 2 white, black, and a green for a legendary creature, Cat Nightmare Beast. It's a 5/5, has mutate for 4 and hybrid green-white and a black-black. Has Death Touch and Lifelink. Whenever this creature mutates, return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. You can do some really stupid stuff with this guy. Cards that have 0 power, your Hydras, cards like that. You can pop in and they immediately die. Oh, that's great. But you can drain the table if you reanimate a bunch of aristocrats that drain when your creatures die. Like old Zulaport Cutthroat, Poison Tipped Archer. It's a very fun deck, man. It's a fun card for the 99 too if you want to use it for that. The Mimeoplasm Dude Classic Commander, 2 black, green, and a blue for a legendary creature Ooze. It's a 0/0. As this guy enters the battlefield, you may exile 2 creature cards from graveyards. If you do, it enters the battlefield as a copy of one of those cards with a number of additional +1/+1 counters on it equal to the power of the other card. I used to have a sweet budget Mimeoplasm deck. This is another under-the-radar Reanimator Commander that can do some pretty wild stuff. Stack your graveyard, man. But Mimeo can hit any graveyard if you see something in your opponent's graveyard, too. Alright, so let's talk about some underrated enablers. This is one of my favorite cards. If your colors support this, Priest of Fel Rites, white and a black for a creature, human warlock. It's a 2/2. Has tap, pay 3 life, sacrifice Priest of Fel Rites, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. Also has Unearth for 3 white and a black. So basically you get 2 reanimation spells in one when this lady's, she's in the forest, dude. I don't know what she's doing out there, but I like her dress. Obsessive Stitcher, 1 blue and a black for a creature human wizard. It's a 0/3. Has tap, draw a card, discard a card, or 2 blue-black tap. Sacrifice it, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now, looters are great in Reanimator decks because often you get stuck with a giant Reanimator target in your hand and no way to cast it until late game. This lady just puts it right in the yard for you. Gerard's Orders, 2 black and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards, reveal them, put one in your hand and the other in your graveyard, then shuffle. I'm baffled that this card is 65 cents, I guess because it's a little pricey, but this is a hugely underrated graveyard tutor, man. You need to be in Golgari, but so what, dude? Yawgmoth's Vile Offering, 4 and a black for a legendary sorcery. You may cast it only if you control a legendary creature or planeswalker. Good thing commander decks come with one at the helm. Put 1 target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker, exile it. This is a removal and reanimation all in one. Yawgmoth was once a dude, but now he's a big cylinder. And that's better commander, brother. Become a cylinder. All it takes is 1 bag of Cheetos every week. You can do it. Now, of course, this is not an exhaustive list of Reanimator staples, Reanimator cards, or Reanimator flatulators, but just a glimpse of what's possible. Some of my favorite cards I just want to chat about today. There are enough redundant effects to make it reliable in a 100-card commander deck. So listen, bros, there's going to be some deck lists in the description, and if you enjoy these videos, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and if you're feeling spicy, you can buy me a coffee at the link in the description, brother. So be nice to each other out there. Nikki G for Better Commander, signing off.